Okay.
Thank you for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. It's a Monday morning, a money making Monday morning, second day in the month of December 2024. We're in that Christmas mood. Of course, we are on your love music, love live station. Ayokunmi here. It's that time to talk about what's been going on in the papers, take a look at the stories that have been making the headlines, and of course, get analysis as well as your reactions because this is freshly pressed. Great way to start a new week. Hope you're ready for the ride with us. I definitely am ready to get into the groove of things. So, just to let you know how you can be part of the conversation, you can send your messages into us on WhatsApp. That is one way to do things. 0809 That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can drop your comments there as well, and we'll take them as we get along. Like I mentioned, analysis will follow the stories this morning. And to give us that this morning, as well as perspective and food for thought, my analyst for the morning, Mr. C, and of course, AB Bozimo are in with me. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you on a brand new week.
Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners. Let's make this a money-making Monday.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Navy. Good morning, Lagos. It's December. Let's roll.
Let's roll. Christmas is already upon us, even though it is still 23 days away. It's still upon us any way you want to look at it. But before then, let us take a look at the headlines making the rounds. And of course, Mr. C, we're going to begin in the punch and talk about, why not the Port Harcourt Refinery, the gift that keeps on giving? Indeed, it is. So updates have been coming through since its, should I say, resurrection last week, for want of a better word. Now, the Port Refining Company has clarified that its operations were not completely halted, but scaled down to facilitate improvements at the facility. Now, the Executive Director, Operations, Nigerian Pipeline and Storage Company Limited, Maidunama, disclosed this on Sunday during a guided tour of the refinery led by the Managing Director, Ibrahim Onoja. Now, Maidunama acknowledged a temporary hitch in operations, but explained that the reduction was necessary to address technical issues and to enhance capacity. Mr. C. Now, this particular refinery was opened on Tuesday. It's less than it will be a week tomorrow. And of course, we are given all the information and sound bites that the refinery was up and running, was back. That it was said that by the outside public that it was running at 70. It was clarified to us that no, it's running at 90%, and so on and so forth. Now, if all the turnaround maintenance and upgrading had been done before the refinery was quote unquote commissioned last Tuesday, why then are you halting operations in order to conduct some necessary upgrades, technical issues, and to enhance capacity? Why then did you bring it to the public that, oh, you are back and good to go?
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. So, the Port Harcourt refinery saga is just a continuing series of embarrassing and disgraceful episodes. Now, they were under no pressure to announce anything last week, Tuesday. They even had a brief ceremony. And what that means is that money was spent to organize that charade and that farce, only for us to find out by Friday it had shut down. Now, even when this story is right, very quickly there's a contradiction. They want to do an upgrade. There are some technical hitches. This is the problem with telling lies, because once you start with a lie, you have to continue with lies. And this is where we are. Only the good Lord knows the next embarrassing episode we're going to be presented or traumatized with. But what it is it is clear that that refinery is not ready. They finally and shamefully made the distinction between the old refinery and the new refinery when they were called out. Now, what is the nature of the technical hitch? No particular details provided. All we're told is that they can load a truck in 15 minutes. When will this so-called upgrade or the technical hitches be addressed? No timeline. And the more important question, which they have refused to answer, which they don't have an answer to, that will make any sense, is long term, where is the crude feedstock for this refinery coming from? Certainly, it's not coming from it. So it's the truth. It's a refinery. It's not a brewery.
It's supposed
So
to refine something.
yes, but you need stuff to refine. So where is it coming from? Remember, I said on this show, there are other refineries in Nigeria owned by private entities that do not get crude feedstock. So for how long do they intend to continue performing magic and trying to hoodwink ordinary Nigerians? I think they should stop with the charade, stop with the nonsense. Whatever you have to fix, if you can fix it, fix it. We've been told that December, the Kaduna refinery is coming online. Again, I state publicly, where is the crude feedstock for that refinery? The pipelines that haven't been used in decades. How is the crude oil going to get to the Kaduna refinery? What will the Kaduna refinery be producing? See, I don't want to waste any time on this because we've already addressed it enough. I wish them the very best, but for as long as they continue to tell lies, we'll address those lies here with facts. We'll rebut the lies with facts. So I wish them the very best. I'm not holding my breath out. And they should remember you cannot take the majority of Nigerians for fools. We're intelligent, we're educated. And the fact that you are in positions of authority and are willing to do what is required, we leave you to your consciences, we leave you to the final judgment when we all pass away.
Indeed. AB, I know you have something to say, but just before you do that, I just want to ask this. I mean, Nigerians are not asking for too much. All they want is good governance and, of course, sincerity where the government is concerned, bare minimum. How difficult can that be for us to get?
You see, it's one thing to leave us to the conscience, but there have to be consequences. I have asked repeatedly why those in charge of NNPC still have their jobs. Now, NNPC is purportedly not a government organization, it's a private company. And in many companies, when you fail, you lose your job. They change CEOs, they change the board, and so on. I have no idea why those in charge of NNPC are so wedded to their lies, their regular lies, and there is no seeming consequence. I remember when people started talking about how the refinery wasn't working, they came out with all sorts of things, insulting people up and down. I admit that maybe what the people were describing may not have been technically accurate, but the long and short of it was the refinery was not refining, as the Gen Z would say, it was not refining. So, all said and done, they have failed once again. Why commission something and in less than 7 days shut it down? Do you know what it takes to start up heavy machinery and shut it down? It just suggests ineptitude combined with a proclivity for lies. And we are here. I don't know, like Mr. C said, what the timeline for these so-called upgrades will be. It would be in our best interest to get this refinery working. How about we get it working? Seven delays later, an eighth would not have changed anything. Now we want to talk of Kaduna. You have not done the Port Harcourt. You are going to Kaduna. Why lie? I beg you.
Okay, so very quickly, there's no evidence any machine was started. All we are told is they're loading trucks. So anything could have happened. The blending
Correct.
of the cracked C5 portions with the naphtha, we're not sure where that happened. And we're just told that they're loading. Now, for those who know where that refinery is located in River State, the road to that refinery is horrible.
I said it
Now,
on Friday.
now they're complaining that truckers don't go there to load. How will truckers go
I
there to
mean,
load when there's nothing to load?
or even an avenue to even get there to load and all that.
They're not loaded. Trust me.
No, let's even assume that there's something to load. To even get there's a problem.
That's
Exactly.
we talked about this on Friday. The road was so bad, some people died because of incidents on that road this year, or
Yeah,
earlier
this
this
year,
year.
yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking about an entire logistical chain that is not being considered, even if that refinery itself was purportedly working. Lies, all lies. I didn't stutter.
Well, we shall see how this all pans out. Very interesting couple of days and weeks ahead of us. All right, AB, let's head into the Daily Trust and talk about President Tinubu, who will leave France on Monday. That's the day for Cape Town, South Africa. That's according to his spokesperson, Bayo Ononuga. Now, according to Ononuga, the president will co-chair the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission alongside President Cyril Ramaphosa. They'll engage in substantive talks on a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including bilateral, regional, and international matters. Excuse me. So President Tinubu from France heading to South Africa to co-chair this particular event. There, more bilateral talks, agreements will be made, and so on and so forth. How soon will we begin to see the results and the effects of these MOUs, these agreements, these handshakes, and so on and so forth? I mean, from all the various trips that the president has actually made, one happened in France, now South Africa. I mean, how soon are we supposed to be seeing the effects or the fruits of all these labors?
I quickly forget before France was Brazil, but let's forget about that. Now, I would say that in real terms, a relationship, a functional relationship with South Africa is more important, in my view, for Nigeria than anything in France or the entire Europe. To be honest, there was a time when Nigeria and South Africa were wedded together, especially in that era when apartheid was being fought.
Mm,
South Africa today is a financial powerhouse. Yes, there is a lot wrong. The ordinary man in South Africa is very dissatisfied. I'm not kidding about that. But overall, because of their history and so on, they have achieved a certain level of industry and sophistication that Nigeria has not. That said, Nigeria is much larger, a once upon a time giant of Africa that has everything in place, I would argue, except perceptive and sensitive leadership to reclaim that title. The bilateral relationship between Nigeria and South Africa is one that should be pursued. I think it's coincidental. It's one of those things where scheduling makes the president just seem to be flying over Nigeria. He goes from Brazil, flies to France, flies over Nigeria, down to South Africa. All these are in an effort to connect with other people on schedules that had already been established before. I applaud and approve this trip to South Africa because when you see what South Africa on our same African continent has been able to do, I think that is an example we ought to capture, an example we ought to emulate. Now, where the question arises, and I'm aware of the halfway mark, is whether the leadership sees these relationships as what will benefit the people or what will be narrowly benefiting to themselves. These are questions I cannot answer. But at the end of the day, you ask, when will these things yield results? They won't happen overnight, but with consistency. Once upon a time, the Obasanjo, the Murtala Mohammed that they recently castigated was a leading force in bringing these two countries together. In my secondary school, there were South Africans who were brought to Nigeria to be
mm.
educated so that they could go back and make their country better. This was what Nigeria was known for, building up Africa, including Nigeria. Where are we today? We have people who seem to be so venal. It's all about their personal, narrow interests and not that of the larger society, whether inside Nigeria or across the African continent. Again, it's a good thing. When will we see the results? We just have to have more clarity, more transparency, and defined proposed
That is
timelines.
the very important question. Hmm. Interesting thoughts there, AB. Personal and self-serving interests. We need to do away with all that if we need to get to where it is that we need to be as a country. Let's take a quick break. When we come back in, we'll be taking a story coming out of the, let me see here, out of the Punch newspaper. It was an incident that started last week and, of course, culminated over the weekend concerning a certain journalist, Fisayo Shreyombo. Very, very interesting thoughts that he has, and we'll talk about that and a lot more right here on the other side on Freshly Press.
Today, and you're tuned to Smooth 98.1.
You listen to this interview Did you
I
watch it?
did. I
Oh,
did.
definitely I did.
I sent it to Abi as well.
Definitely I did.
I mentioned, I mean, he said things that we know, but
He said it ho-ha. He didn't stutter. He, without naming names, he named institutions
Yeah.
and operations
No, but
and procedure.
we've always called it correctly here that look,
Yes, that there's collusion. You
you
cannot do
you
all
can't do
this.
that without the involvement.
Honestly, you cannot move. I say you cannot buy a radio and not have the receipt and move on this Nigerian street. How can you be moving crude all over the place? Let's go, Joe.
This is freshly pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1 The Music Love Live. It's a Monday morning. Ayokunmi here. Mr. C and of course AB are also in this morning to take a look at the stories, give their analysis as well. And you, all you need to do is to share your thoughts, your perspectives, your opinions with us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 0981. We appreciate you always sticking with us and sending those thoughts in. WhatsApp, sorry, I beg your pardon, YouTube. We're streaming live. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos and also drop your comments as well. JP on WhatsApp says, good morning to you, JP. The fact the state-run oil company can feed us false positions and get away with it is symptomatic of our nation. No one in government calls them out and makes changes. Sad. Cheers to you too, JP. Michael says, we can't just leave them, sir. Very soon they will come up to say they have spent $500 billion. Monies are being spent, sir. Taxpayers and so-called borrowed money. Who is auditing the spending? This is the outcome of school set leadership. He further says, as far as I'm concerned, Tinubu wants to drag us into bricks with this South Africa trip. Why paint a bullseye on Nigeria? Interesting thoughts there. Eddie Murphy, interesting name, says Nigerians will know the truth on the large scale if the MD of NNPC and his team are relieved of their jobs. But our insincere government will keep them to satisfy its selfish desire. I remember when Military himself said that he knew things, that if he said things, and I thought to myself, how can someone in this position make that sort of statement? And everybody was quiet, at least those at the top.
We're not quiet on this show.
Pardon?
We were not quiet on this show. I called him out.
No, I meant those at the top.
Okay.
So
referring to.
So very quickly, even if you change Kerry and scheme today, the new team that gets in will continue because the system has been rigged that way.
Exactly. Talking about the system being rigged that way, Mr. C, that takes us into the story I mentioned coming out of the crunch. Now, investigative journalist Fisayo Shoyombo on Saturday revealed key details of his recent encounter with the Nigerian army, calling for a complete overhaul of the country's security structure to tackle illegal crude oil bunkering effectively. Now, he also shared how the oil bunkers provided him with an account of the sensitive information he had previously shared with the Nigerian army aimed at curbing illicit bunkering operations. Now, Mr. So we've talked about this before, the complicity of our security architecture. And I mean, this further buttresses the point, and you just begin to wonder, is there any way out of this quagmire we found ourselves in?
Okay, so it makes for very depressing reading. So Fisayo has only told us what some of us already knew a long time ago. He's just confirmed it. Now it is crystal clear, I repeat, crystal clear to the blind and the deaf that our security agencies, to some extent, have compromised with the people engaged in what they term illegal bunkering. We are the ones calling it illegal bunkering. To them, it's business as usual.
But it's illegal business.
Now, what is truly shocking is he's interviewed by the highest echelon of the Nigerian army. Now, you would think that that sort of interrogation or interview will be limited to a few eyes and ears alone. But for the bunkerers to narrate to him back, word for word, or a very precise and detailed summary of what he discussed with the highest echelon of the Nigerian army, it raises concerns for the ordinary man on the streets. Now, one would think, oh, this is limited to the Nigerian army. Earlier this year, the EFCC had cause to interview a suspect. In the course of that interrogation, the name of a very senior political figure was mentioned. The very next day, said political figure drove to the FCC office and told them, I understand my name came up yesterday. How did he have that information? Now, to the question whether how do we get out of here, I really don't. With this current setup, I'm not sure there's any intention to get out of it. Because if you replace the people there with new people, for as long as the present system or the present arrangement continues to exist, it will corrupt the new ones. Because think about it, there's a lot of illegal money to be made. You would think the EFCC would concentrate its resources, its efforts, and its activities into that sector, rather than disturbing Nigerians with their presence at civilian elections. You would think they should be more interested, because one of the core mandates of the EFCC is to check activities that affect the economy of Nigeria. They're supposed to prevent them, and where they can prevent them, investigate, apprehend, and prosecute the perpetrators.
Right.
But it's almost as if that is a no-go area for them. Rather, they're chasing young Nigerian youths who are misguided and engaging in internet fraud activity. I'm not glorifying it. I'm not applauding it. I'm not recommending it. But on the balance of, on the scale of preferences, right? Why are you not going after the people causing more damage? Because the more oil you steal, the less oil Nigeria has to sell and collect revenue, the less money there is available to engage in the required and necessary capital expenditure this nation needs to get out of the current mess we find ourselves in.
Also, less oil to give the refineries.
No, the refineries. See, look, those refineries are political stunts. They are not designed to work. There's no plan for them to work. All their hopes have been and continue to rest on the Dangote refinery. But the problem is they haven't agreed or they haven't reached a mutually satisfactory arrangement for all the parties concerned. That is why you have that sort of you have the friction there. But this is really disturbing. Remember, Fisayo did an expose on the Nigerian Customs Service and their activities with certain smugglers. Of course, the NCS has gone quiet, came out with a general denial, and it's business as usual. The other day, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, Fisayo gave evidence. He gave notice that there's going to be some massive rice smuggling into Nigeria. Of course, he said it wasn't going to happen. Then he provided the pictorial proof. If you go to his media handles on X, you will see the proof. Again, complete radio silence. We're not ready as a nation. The current arrangement favors those in office, and there's no real desire to do anything. If they come out and talk to you, it's just sound bites, and it's still business as usual. They're not interested. So until we have a responsible government, a responsible leader who is prepared to die to self to ensure that Nigeria moves forward, we'll be where we are.
The series of very, very unfortunate events that we are dealing with in Nigeria at the moment. Let me sneak a message or two in here. D from Ikeja says, at the rate these Nigerian officials are traveling, I hope they won't become Marty McFly in Back to the Future. I see you, D. Gilbert Musa from Festac says, on the bad roads leading to the Port Harcourt refinery, it beats my imagination. The reason our road infrastructure in Nigeria is poor, or has been poor, or from 1994 or since 94 till date. We need to ask the reason our professional bodies that should be a vanguard or advocates for this worrisome trend are rather silent about the subject matter. Just wonder. Anyways, AB, let's talk about Jagba in some way. We're going to, should I say, merge two stories here. But firstly, coming out of the vanguard, and the registrar of the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria, Al Hassan Ndagi, has urged Nigerian nurses to prioritize serving their country, emphasizing that Nigeria needs their services more than Europe or America. Now, he made the statement during the induction of 37 pioneer nursing students from Fountain University, Oshogbo, into the profession. Now, of course, we know the situations concerning our health practitioners leaving the country in their droves. Really just wonder if there's anybody left. Now, at the same time, a story in the Daily Post talks about President Bola Tinubu disclosing that economic policies that he initiated upon his assumption of office are now yielding the desired result. I mean, if they were, the nurses, the doctors, the lab technicians, and so on and so forth in the health sector would not be leaving the country in droves. Rather, they'd be coming back.
I'm glad that the story said rather than seeking opportunities abroad. So there's an acknowledgement that there are comparatively better opportunities. Why is that? I've said before that becoming a healthcare professional is not merely getting a degree, it's a life-saving service. And it takes so much to do in all of the various things. And the biggest frustration for most of them is not that they are unable to do the work or they are unwilling to do it, but that the facilities don't exist. So when I'm hearing somebody talking to the nurse practitioners saying they shouldn't japa, they should serve their country, I think they're talking to the wrong audience. The people who need this message about serving the country are the leaders who should provide the context, the conditions, and the equipment that will make these healthcare professionals better able to serve with their knowledge. So telling somebody not to pursue opportunity when you don't create for them the necessary alternatives, I think is baying in the wind. They will get their credentials, and 90 something percent of them will plan how to leave this country unless and until you do what is necessary to make
Right.
it possible for them to have the kind of lives, one, where they're able to work, and two, where they're able to have a quality of life that they can compare with other places. I think there's one thing that I saw humorous some time ago where they said, if only, this was when the doctors were on strike, if only the politicians would be on strike and jackpot and let the doctors come back, Nigeria will be a much more perfect place. The whole point is that the ones that we need are going, and the ones who have not proven themselves to be useful to us as a nation are here, entrenched. It's very unfortunate. Don't tell people not to jackpot. Make it comparatively uninteresting for people. First of all, people have a right to decide what they want to do with their lives.
True.
But if you give them the context, many of them would say, you know what? Because there are many, many psychological advantages of being at home, traveling just for your own interests. You know, when the president said he's making the changes, he should compare himself to the president of Argentina, who in a much shorter time has transformed his country in all the indices where people can see. But here we keep being told, we know your pains, we know your pains. You don't know our pains, Mr. President. If you did, you would take an example from countries where short-term measures have worked, including reducing the cost and burden of governance.
Right. Thank you for saying that, AB.
Let
see.
let me quickly jump in,
Please do.
right? So one, you tell the nurses, oh, please don't go. Nigeria needs you more than the other countries need you. But every time you have any slight medical condition, you're outside the country. Two, you don't want them to improve themselves in all aspects of their lives. Where are your kids, Mr. President? Your three daughters do not live in Nigeria. Isn't Nigeria good enough to provide them with the opportunities they need? That's one. Two, you went for a 3-day state trip. You're not back. You're now traveling from France to South Africa. What message are you sending to Nigerians? We're not sure if Shatima is back from whatever trip he took off to last week.
I think he should be back on Wednesday, according to that report.
Not a problem. So currently we have a situation where the two top guys are not in the country, which is really funny. The people are not funded, working conditions are abysmal, yet you say they should stay. Stay to do what? Then he's now confidently telling us that, or his reforms have started to yield results. Can these results not be named? Can they not be identified? Are they incapable of being identified? We're being taken for a ride, and sometimes it's extremely painful. This is a Monday morning. Why am I having to analyze such nonsense?
Let's round up with messages here. Sheon Odiese from Surulere says the refinery is an embarrassing smokescreen. There has to be consequences for these lies. These people don't have any shame. Barrister Dan Okuda says any government built on propaganda and lies will ultimately fail. The drama at the Port Harcourt Refinery is a shame on the country. Ajayi Oloniluwa says the embarrassing truth about the resumption of operations at the Port Harcourt Refinery is gradually coming to light, and it's nothing other than another scam like the shameful episode of Nigeria Air. That one too has been packaged and it's all quiet at the moment. At the moment. Let's see if anything comes out of it. Um, let's see. Cisco Delgado says the transformation, according to President Tinubu, could be in a dream because there's no impact or positive changes on Nigerians. People are not seeing these things. Joseph Menier says this is most catastrophic. All what Mr. C said, how the government's response to all the allegations by the private investigator, just deafening silence. But just insult any top government officials or ridicule the country on social media. God help the person if he or she won't be arrested. May God help us. Tony from Marine Beach says the hitches and glitches in quotes here are becoming one too many under this administration. They make rocket science of every simple process that works seamlessly in other crimes. Why are we like this? When shall we begin to live with the right expectations like every other humans? One of these days, living as an assessment of the most flying president, both locally and internationally. I have a feeling someone is about to break the Guinness records in a manner broken for life. And Dakwa from Uglana Drive, Dakwa from Uglana this morning. The refinery saga is very embarrassing to us and the general public. Why do we have to always play the impresario with other people's intelligence and keep trying to string everybody along? Sincerity and the trust factor has gone down the drain, and this desperado attitude to make a financial mark in our individual pocket should be terminated. Who is fooling who? All right, we've come to the end of the show. We need to pack it up this morning. Thank you so much for all the messages. And of course, thank you to AB and of course, Mr. C for joining us this morning.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. The stories are not so pleasurable, but we can enhance continental reach by linking up with South Africa. I think that's much better than those Europeans. No offense to Europeans, but they are far and their concerns are very different from ours.
Thank you for having me, and I agree with AB. France didn't do anything for Chad, Mali, and Niger. They're not going to do anything for us. And please, Nigerians, do not be discouraged by the news coming out every day. Just continue focusing on what you do best, and eventually we will dig ourselves collectively out of this hole in spite of the political chaos.
That's right. Do not be discouraged and keep your eye on the ball. It's a Monday morning. Make some money. And of course, enhance your quality of life as well. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast at 8:15. We'll get into the locker room and talk about sports and all the good stuff.
Freshly pressed or smooth.